welcome we of Bill Schmitt and Dave Dean.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Leanne Barbee, and I am a suffering Ohio citizen similar to many others that you have heard speak. Yet, my story is still unique. Doctors slammed a slew of diagnoses at me beginning at a very young age, and they hesitated nonetheless to throw countless dangerous pharmaceuticals at a young woman who was just beginning to live her life. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, scoliosis, idiopathic migraines, psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, severe chronic depression, generalized anxiety disorder, and bipolar disorder within just a few short years. At one point, while discussing my treatment options and what my future would look like with my primary doctor, he told me that his goal was to get me to a 5 on a pain scale of 1 to 10. That my outlook, the best I could look forward to was a 5. And that would leave most adults in pain and tears. And I still had to try to maintain a life and raise 2 children. So begins the story of my entry into the pharmaceutical dependency. At the age of 14, my doctors insisted that my mental health issues could be helped by antidepressants. I tried and failed over a dozen different antidepressants and antipsychotic drugs. I took 3 different anti-anxiety drugs, all of which made me slur my speech and made me extremely drowsy. I also tried 6 different muscle relaxers to ease the muscle tension caused by my scoliosis and fibromyalgia. The muscle relaxers, especially when taken with the anti-anxiety drugs, caused me to fall asleep during conversations and gave me sleep apnea, where I would gasp for air while sleeping because my body forgot to breathe. I tried 4 different migraine pills, never worked. For my psoriasis, my arthritis, and Crohn's disease, I was given an immunosuppressant that weakens your immune system so your body doesn't attack itself. I've also tried over 24 different creams and ointments for my psoriasis. While using these ointments, I could not go out in the sun and I always smelled like a medicine cabinet. I tried all 3 FDA drugs approved for the treatment of fibromyalgia, but was still in so much pain that I couldn't work any longer. My doctor had periodically prescribed me opiates through all of my diagnoses and failed treatments. After maxing out the dosage of your normal opiates like Vicodin and Percocet, my doctor prescribed me methadone, a drug commonly known for helping addicts get off of heroin. At this point, I was taking 20 pills a day, including 90 milligrams of methadone and a weekly injection of a drug designed to destroy your immune system. I was extremely fatigued all of the time and slept 20 hours a day and was still in pain. In late 2012, my primary doctor moved his practice. I switched doctors because it was too much of a strain on my family to drive me an hour each way, since I wasn't able to drive myself for fear of falling asleep at the wheel. My new doctor didn't even bother to read my entire chart before saying to me, "I think you're addicted to narcotics and I won't prescribe you any." So 2 days before Christmas that year, I started going through withdrawals. The pain was excruciating and the withdrawal symptoms were more than I thought I could handle. I considered buying pills off the street, but being on disability meant that the cost of street narcotics wasn't an option. So my next choice was heroin. I actually considered doing heroin to help me get through the withdrawals of a drug meant to help people get off of heroin. Luckily, before I ever was able to get my hands on heroin, a friend offered me some medical marijuana. I had been an occasional recreational user since I was a teenager, but wasn't really convinced that cannabis could ease my pain and help me through the withdrawal of opiates. The first night I tried it, I was able to sleep through the night with no nightmares, no cold sweats, and I had no migraine when I woke up the next morning. I continued using cannabis daily, topically, ingesting it, and inhaling it. And not only did my withdrawal symptoms improve upon every use, but so did my symptoms from my multitude of chronic conditions. By October of 2013, my symptoms were improving so much that I weaned off the rest of the pharmaceutical drugs I had been on for over half of my life. Cannabis helped give me my life back. I'm a better mother and wife thanks to cannabis. I can clean my apartment, I can cook dinner most nights, I can even help my kids, they're teenagers now, and I can help them with their schoolwork for the first time in years. I'm able to volunteer, I work part-time, and I'm even able to help out with the local high school musical, something that I've always loved to do. I'm no longer sleeping 20 hours a day, I no longer have sleep apnea, and I no longer slur my speech. I even lost 65 pounds. Every one of my conditions can be treated effectively with cannabis. It took over 20 pills a day for me to only receive half the relief that cannabis gives me. My Crohn's has been in remission for 2 years. I have no side effects from cannabis that prevent me from living my life as fully as possible with as many chronic conditions that I have. I have been haunted by my own disabilities and diseases my entire life, and cannabis has been the solution to my personal horror story. Yet the tale is not just my own. I see it through the suffering in my little boy's eyes every single day. My son Caden was 5 when his symptoms first started. He was weak, lethargic, had immense abdominal pain, and was having bloody bowel movements upwards of 20 times a day. After a long hospital stay and many tests, he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. If you're not aware, Crohn's is an autoimmune disorder that causes his immune system to attack his digestive tract. The next 7 years of his life, he spent in and out of hospitals. Initially, he was put on a steroid called prednisone that reduces inflammation caused by autoimmune disorders, but also has severe side effects. Caden took this drug so frequently while his little body was still growing that he now has osteopenia, a precursor to osteoporosis, which causes bones to be weak and brittle, something you commonly see in the elderly. Caden was diagnosed with this at 10. However, the prednisone was not a cure and barely treated his symptoms. After being hospitalized over a dozen times, the doctors decided to try a more aggressive approach and put him on an immunosuppressant, which was originally a chemotherapy drug. The doctors insisted that by weakening his immune system, his body would no longer attack itself. Once a month, we would go to the hospital for a 6-hour infusion, which left him emotionally and physically exhausted. He would be lethargic for days after every infusion. After a year on the first chemotherapy drug, we were told that he had built up an immunity to it and was no longer helping him. He now takes 2 immunosuppressants, one of which we must inject into his thigh every other week at home. The second one is a pill used to make sure he doesn't build up antibodies to the first immunosuppressant he's on. He also has to take iron, folic acid, and calcium supplements because the drugs deplete his body of these necessary nutrients. Since Caden was diagnosed in 2005, he has been prescribed over 35 different drugs, many of which work to combat side effects of other drugs. Caden is now 15 years old. Since he is on 2 different immunosuppressants, his immune system cannot fight off normal viral and bacterial infections. Due to this weakened immune system, he can't be your normal 15-year-old boy. He has to attend school online because in a public school setting, it can be detrimental to his health. He got the flu, he could be in the hospital for weeks. He can't play sports because of the damage done to his bones by a medicine deemed safe by the FDA. Is this the kind of life you would like to see your child have when you know that it works for the exact same condition? I've used it myself for that condition, and I know it could help him. That's it.
Up next we have Bill Schmitt. Bill will be followed by David Daniel and Mike Pop.
All right, thank you, Senators, for having me here. I'm testifying on behalf of chronic pain patients here in Ohio. I'm Bill Schmitt Jr., born on 4/20/1977, and I've always been what some call a recreational user. That was until I had a situation come up in life where I was trying to get custody of my daughter, and I felt that it was very necessary for me to quit smoking at that time. So I quit smoking just in case that is what was needed to do for my daughter, just like any real man would. But that is where it got really rough. You see, about 8 years ago, I was in a pretty bad car accident involving 3 cars, all totaled, and sustained injuries to my neck and back, 6 bulging discs, a radial disc tear, and a rupture in my C3, which at that time I was not prepared to have surgery, and I didn't think that was even an option. Also at that time I found out that I was born with short pedicles, something that with your spinal, I have less space between my vertebrae than the average person, so it leaves me susceptible to spinal cord and neck injuries. They recommended surgery, but like I said, it just wasn't an option for me. So I solely relied on cannabis. But now I cannot medicate with cannabis for my daughter. So I did do some extra research, and it led to the Toledo Hemp Center. And I found some CBD-only products that helped me sleep, manage the pain, and kept me mobile. At that point, I knew that cannabis had great medicinal value. Let me explain why I do not take the pain pills for my injuries. Let's take a little journey to the place I call home. Bel Air, Ohio, a small village right on the Ohio River in Belmont County, about 4.5 hours away from here. In southeast Ohio, where heroin and pill abuse has ravaged our whole area. 25 minutes away from me is Washington County, Pennsylvania, where records of overdoses get national media attention quite often. Also, directly across the river from me in Wheeling, West Virginia, is a state with the #1 highest overdose rate in the whole nation. Sadly, Ohio is at the top of that list also. Welcome to my village. The same village that I have to raise my teenage son and teenage daughter in, as well as my girlfriend's 4 amazing daughters. I am concerned for their future. I am concerned because I have to raise my kids in this mess. I know you guys wouldn't want to either. And there are ways we can change it. Legalizing medicinal cannabis gives people like me a chance to take something safer for their body and more natural, instead of being prescribed opiates for their injuries. I do not want to be like the next one in my area to go down that road like so many have. Legalizing medicinal cannabis not only gives patients a safe choice, but it also helps opiate abusers with withdrawal symptoms and helps them get away from that horrible monster. I know I can't change the neighboring states around me, but we can start changing Ohio now and lead by example. Ohioans deserve a medication that is widely available in 23 states in this great nation. Ohioans deserve access to full plant medicinal cannabis. Thank you.